Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to today's Startup Junkie. All right, yes, I know I'm coming to you a little bit earlier. Well, so much stuff has actually happened in terms of stimulus talks, in terms of people being indicted. Yes, I will address that. Believe it or not, it all centers around the border wall. All right. Which, by the way, never came. All right. And this episode is what we call the state of play. But before I get started, I'm just going to address the elephant in the room. Well, first, let me say this. If you don't know who I am, all right, I'm AJ, your host of the Startup Junkie, and this is what I do. All right. We are all about the startup. All right. We bring you news that affects your business, you as an entrepreneur, and any and everything that actually affects the economy. Anything that affects your pocketbook, our little special session that we like to call, or segment that is, the state of play. All right. And the state of play today, as I said, we're going to address some of the updates as it relates to the stimulus, tell you about an upcoming webinar where we actually got an overwhelming response already, and I'm going to encourage you to join that during the course of this show. And before we get started with all of that, though, I just want to address the elephant in the room. All right, for all the people that are checking in on Facebook, I see you guys not Instagram, but Periscope/Twitter, as well as YouTube. And since I got your attention, if you haven't got an opportunity, be sure to check out the Startup Junkie live podcast on Apple iTunes, Spotify, TuneIn, as well as iHeart Media. So let me address the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is, AJ, what in the crap is going on with your hair? All right. Well, yes, I do have a Gumby haircut. All right. A friend of mine reached out to me. He goes, yeah, man, I've seen all the videos you've been posting, and I noticed your hair has been changing. But you know what would really be funny? If you had a Gumby haircut. And I said to him, if you donate $500 to one of my favorite charities, I will definitely cut my hair in a Gumby haircut. So I got a confirmation yesterday that he donated $500, and hence I have a Gumby haircut. So let me just say this. I'm going to get some music to kind of set the mood here, people. As I said to you, we always come to you with what we call the state of play. Now, the state of play is our answer to what is going on in the economy. So I want to make sure you have it. So here's the scene. As you know, the president signed off and passed his many executive orders, which was 4, by the way. Now, there are several states that have yet to, one, get the federal funding to start adding the economic boost to unemployment. Last week, or last stimulus report I reported to you was there has been a downtick in jobless claims. Unfortunately, just as of yesterday, there has been an uptick. So now it's back over 1 million people filing for unemployment. That's 1 million plus new people. And the running total now, or at least people that are actually receiving unemployment assistance, is over 15 million. So yes, over 15 million are unemployed. Now, as you know, the House, under the leadership of Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, they have literally called back, their people to come to Congress because Louis DeJoy, who is the postmaster, will be deposed, so to speak. He's actually going to have to testify in front of Congress about what's going on with the postal debacle. In other words, why are all of these, high capacity mail sorting machines that were in perfectly working order and condition being taken out and being disassembled? Well, he says nothing is going to change, and this is his response. Nothing is going to change. Everything is going to be good. We're going to put it all back. But we just found out today that once you disable or disassemble a machine, you cannot put it back together. And literally, if you could, it definitely wouldn't be in enough time for the upcoming mail-in ballot election. Okay, so here is the deal, right? I am going to share a video with you. The National Economic Advisor, Larry Kudlow, and what his opinion is on the unemployment and how he's saying, oh, yeah, well, we can mail checks out to people in the next week or two. People are going to start really getting these checks. But we're going to explain exactly how, one, since the administration doesn't necessarily have spending power that's in Congress, how money has been redirected from a certain fund in order to fund this. And of the 50 states, and of many people filing for unemployment in all these different states, there are only a handful of states that are actually getting any money. And you do also understand that the handful of states that are getting some of this $400 boost, you remember only 300 is coming from the actual federal government, which leaves 100 left on the states per week, per person with a jobless claim that the local states have to pick up, which is very, very difficult, by the way, when you start thinking about how cash-strapped states are already from dealing with the current situation, which is the pandemic. On that note, though, here is Larry Kudlow on CNBC yesterday. Check it out.
You mentioned the executive orders on unemployment claims. As far as I can tell, Larry, only Arizona is set to pass out those additional funds. Only 8 states have been approved for those grant loans from FEMA. So it's not clear how quickly that money is reaching unemployed Americans across the states, or whether it's even going to reach them at all.
Well, I think it will reach them. And we've made it as easy as possible for the states because they can use prior unemployment benefits of $100. So we've made it very easy, and we'll give the federal plus up of $300. Look, I guess 8 or 9 states have applied. I can assure you those applications will be granted by the Department of Labor. We're accustomed to working with the governors on COVID matters and, of course, unemployment insurance matters. Labor Secretary has been very good at that. I think really in the next week or two, you're going to see a lot of checks minted to unemployed people at the federal level and the state level. Now, the states do put the federal money in. I want to be clear about that. But I think it's in place. The applications are flowing in very fast. So I'm optimistic on that. And again, I want to keep this V-shaped recovery going. This is a moment when liquidity is absolutely essential. We have much more work to do. I mean, unemployment claims are starting to go back down. The case rate, the COVID case rate, is now going back down nationally. It's actually off about 35% from the mid-July peaks. That's a good sign. The claims are falling, but we have work to do. We have work to do. There are about 140 million people employed. There are about 14 million people unemployed. There's still a lot of hardship out there. That's why part of the mantra here is kids and jobs. Open the schools and let's do what we can to get them back to work. One of them, in our ask, by the way, is a reemployment bonus, which makes so much sense. If you go back to work, we give you a very handsome bonus. So that is even better, I think, than the unemployment. But let's just open the economy and let her rip.
Okay, so let her rip. So, of course, I have made several notes about that particular interview as of yesterday. All right. So first and foremost, let me just say this. You heard that only a handful of states, he said like 7 or 8 states, they literally had to put in an application. So I don't know if you caught where the money is actually coming from. Monies that were allocated for FEMA, right? That's a federal emergency, federal emergency disaster assistance or something like that. I'm sorry, it just slips my mind, but you know what FEMA is, right? Well, anyway, much of the money that is funding that executive order is coming from FEMA. Now, you do realize that at the same time, there are some states that have major power outages based on storms. We have anticipated storms brewing in the Gulf that are coming, basically, there is a possibility for natural disasters to come anyway, as we are in that season, right? So, so basically, this is a case of, at least in my opinion, at least what I call it, robbing Peter to pay Paul. However, since the Congress is actually technically out of session and will not be doing anything legislatively, where, you got the Republicans, you have the Democrats basically in the House, not until after Labor Day. And Labor Day is September 7th, if I'm not mistaken. And that means that September 8th is when everything should happen. So if there is a likely passage of a stimulus, then it will happen most likely within the first to second week of September. Now, the one good news is the Republicans, the Democrats, as well as the current administration do agree on one thing, and that's more direct checks to Americans that are cash strapped based on the pressures of the current pandemic, the current situation. Now, even though all that is occurring, right, the big deal is, and let me see if I could pull this up on my screen here. Of course, you can't see it. I can. All right. So the big difference or the big situation is this. Mid-July, the mortgage moratorium actually ended. And we're deep in August right now. So that means 30 days from the time that the mortgage and rent moratoriums actually ended nationwide, the eviction process actually started counting from that. It typically takes 30 days from the date that it ended, and then, of course, the proceedings actually occur. I know I've owned property and I've had to evict people, unfortunately. But the real tragic and most unfortunate situation here is because there's no stimulus, there's no halt on evictions, there is no rental assistance money there. Although, there have been certain talks about possible executive orders being signed to actually stop, some of that. But you also have to understand that when you put a halt on, say, evicting people, by putting a halt on mortgages that are federally backed, they're just that. Only mortgages that are federally backed. Meaning that if your landlord has to pay a mortgage that is not federally backed, it does not mean that that landlord cannot still evict you, right? Only mortgages can be only federally backed mortgages can be protected if an executive order was to happen, meaning that if there is a halt on a federally backed mortgage, then that means that there is a halt on any renters paying rent to a landlord who has a federally backed mortgage. I know you got me on that, right? But since that's such a small amount, we anticipate the rental eviction process has already started. Now, there is some good news, right? The one thing that the current administration has to run on now, because they can't run on health, because if you all you got to do is Google this for yourself. The current administration is in the Supreme Court right now arguing to take away certain specific portions to dismantle the ACA, which is the Affordable Care Act. Most of you guys know it as Obamacare, right? So at the same time, the administration is saying, hey, look, everyone's going to have health care. They're in the Supreme Court trying to take away. So don't, judge what you quote unquote see on TV or what you hear right now, or even me. Don't even take my word for it. Look it up for yourself to see that's exactly what's happening. So since you cannot run on health, which, by the way, if you get COVID, if you have any kind of pre-existing condition, if they're arguing to take that away, then guess what? You don't have health care. How in the hell can you not have health care during a pandemic? That is unfreaking believable to me. But anyway, here's the point. Since you cannot run on that, and I'm talking about the current administration, you have to run on the economy, okay? You were talking about the stock market is up, but unemployment and jobless claims are up at the same time. You go, so what's the paradox? Okay, why is this happening? You have to understand that although the stock market does work on the whims of, say, what is happening with, say, the Federal Reserve, if they're pumping money into the economy, you also have to understand that when you combine millions upon millions of possible evictions with no stimulus check, it is highly unlikely that the current administration will actually get reelected. He can say, or anyone can say that are on the right, and don't worry, I'm going to give the left too. Okay, I'm going to speak to the left for all my friends who say I lean too much to the left. I'm just saying this for all the people that are on the right. If you have no money, high evictions, and yet you have a high stock market, most of the people that don't have what they say, the study says at least $400 to put together real quickly, or at least $1,000 somewhere in savings somewhere, right? If all of that happens, there's no way that the current administration will get reelected. So it is in the best interest of the current administration to put more money out there. Hence, that's why the attempt of the 4 executive orders, that's why they were signed, okay? Which, by the way, you may have noticed that, as Larry Kudlow said, there's only like 7 or 8 states. And some other states that have applied are still waiting for approval. And so that's why he said that checks will start going out in a week or two. But in a week or two, many people that have lost their jobs, the 15 plus million people that are getting unemployment, plus the 1 point whatever million people that just filed jobless claims, they don't have until mid-September to wait to get a check. So I think that something is going to happen. Okay, it's going to happen very soon, right? Because if you can pass a deal that stops rental evictions, that basically puts a moratorium in place for mortgages, right, and rents, and then at the same time provide money into the accounts of people and pass something that passes in the House, that goes to the Senate, that goes to the president's desk, and he signs off on it, that puts money into the pockets of Americans, into their bank accounts, then you are more likely to see a positive outcome for not only, Americans being able to participate in the economy, which, by the way, they said that the stimulus, the extra $600 per week for the unemployment boost, and the extra money, the $1,200 that was sent to individuals, $2,400 for couples, and the extra added like $500 per dependent or something like that of that nature, actually brought the economy, when all that was in place, in other words, CARES Act 1, it brought it to spending to pre-pandemic levels, okay? But because of, quote unquote, the current situation, the pandemic, more people are at home, more people are buying computers, more people are buying cell phones, more people are buying more things that are running up the value of companies such as Apple, which, by the way, they just went over $2 trillion. That's market cap. That's the valuation, $2 trillion, okay? $2 trillion. So I can benefit from having stock like Apple and Facebook and all that. Like, I have all that, okay? But the average American does not have all of that, okay? I admit I've been blessed. So part of what I do, because I've been so blessed, I like to share information. And that's why I'm sharing this today. So what is the ultimate state of play? The ultimate state of play is, the first thing that we have to deal with is, how do you stop yourself from getting evicted? Well, first and foremost, if you own a mortgage, this is what you need to do. And I'm going to read it straight off the screen, okay? you need to ask your lender what options, you have and what you can afford. And there are basically 3 options. Forbearance, which is basically a pause or reduction in your mortgage. And the CARES Act contained a provision that protected homeowners from fees, penalties, and additional interest during the forbearance, okay? Though some lenders will require a lump sum of the outstanding balance when this is all over, or they might take it and put it at the end of your mortgage, right? As for a loan modification, basically is an adjustment in terms of your loans to lower interest rates, expand repayment periods, or change the loan type. In other words, say if you owe, if you're paying $1,000 a month on your mortgage and, you got 20 years left, they can extend your payments, put them on the back end, okay? So that's a loan modification. That's an example of that. And then also a revised payment plan, okay? So instead of making a lump sum after your forbearance period is over, right? Ask if they can modify your payments and spread those payments out on top of what you're currently paying as a mortgage, okay? So this is what you do if you own a mortgage and you have found yourself in the unflattering circumstance of actually losing your job or experiencing financial strain based on the current pandemic or the current situation. All right. Now, if you are a renter, I would like for you to go. If you fear that you are going to be evicted, I would like for you to go to Google, right, and search rental assistance. Now, typically this rental assistance will come primarily from your local municipality, local government, okay? Now, what I have on the screen here is what Harris County is doing. I'm in Houston, Texas. I'm in Harris County, and what they're doing to help those who find themselves in an unfortunate circumstance of not being able to make rent. So definitely please Google this sooner than later. Don't wait till the actual eviction process happens to where you get a summons and the deputy sheriff is showing up on your doorstep saying you have to show up to court to address for non-payment of rent. You don't want to be out there in a situation like that. So I highly recommend anyone watching this video, please follow what I've asked you to do. And this is just my suggestion as a former real estate investor, as well as, someone who's had to unfortunately evict people. All right. Based on non-payment of rent. But I'm just sharing with you what you need to do to protect yourself. We are in a circumstance, many of you are in circumstances of no fault of your own, okay? It's just what we call pestle. It's a pestle force. Pestle force is political, economic, legal, environmental, technological. It's a force that's uncontrollable, right? So please do that. And the last thing that I want to share with you is this. I'm going to share the screen right here. Okay, so I'm sharing with you right here. I just put this up last night. We are having a live Zoom training, and we have 17 registrants already just from last night. And what I am going to do is I am literally going to limit the amount of people that can actually attend this. Like once you click on the link in the body of this post, you'll come to a registration page, and basically it's 3 simple steps, a 3-simple-step formula to starting a successful business. It's put on by our sponsor, Think Grids Labs. It's our learning series, and we'd like to invite you to register for that. Okay, please do so, because once we get to about maybe 30 or 40 people, we're not letting anyone in, because honestly, we don't, since it's a live Zoom training and people are asking questions all along the way, we want to make sure that we have enough time to address the questions that people are posing without having to follow up with them. We want to address your questions live. We want to give you the answers that you're looking for successfully starting a business. A 3 simple step process that we have that I teach all of my students, my MBA students, right? And also a process that I teach in my course developments, okay? And if you don't know this by now, many people who know me know that I basically, our company creates course content for universities. We do e-learning. We do all of that stuff. All that boring technical stuff that people talk about all the time that no one understands, coding and all that. We do all that stuff. All right. So I want to say this to you guys before I get out of here today. Please go back and look at this video as it relates to protecting yourself from being evicted. All right. Please do that. Please do that. If you have not also applied for unemployment, you just found yourself recently furloughed or laid off or whatever, please file for unemployment as soon as you can, because the faster you do, the faster you can get in the system, the faster they can process you, okay? And you can start getting some economic relief, okay? And if you have not registered for our live Zoom training coming up next Monday at 8 p.m. Central, the link to access and register for that training is in the body of this post. I am not selling you anything in this live training. This is my give back to you. All right. As I've shared with you guys before, and I'm not saying this to impress you, but to impress upon you. When getting my MBA from the University of Massachusetts, Eisenberg School of Management, that's, Eisenberg School of Management, that's UMass Amherst. And also getting my master's in international marketing from Boston University, specializing in doing business in Latin America. What happened in both of those programs was this. We got an opportunity to ask questions from our professors who were not just theorists. In other words, it's not just something they picked up and they read and they were teaching you. No, these guys, many of these guys had companies. They sold their companies for millions, some even tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of dollars, right? They would have what is called Coffee Talk Sundays, right? Where we would meet with them and we would talk with them. We would ask them questions on how we can do what they did. In other words, it was more of a mentorship thing, right? So I am saying to you, this is our give back. This is our Coffee Talk Sundays for you. And that is represented by the live Zoom training. You asking any question that you have about starting a successful business, coming up with an idea, taking that idea from concept to market, identifying key suppliers, identifying how you can, even during the midst of a pandemic, create something so beautiful, so special, and how you can get people to do the work for you. Yes. Work remotely. Yes, you can do that. And these are just some of the things that we're going to talk about in this live Zoom training. So please register for that training. And also, I humbly ask you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. We just started it, and it is in the body of the post, the link. And lastly, we have a Facebook group, the startupjunkie.io. The link is in the body of this post. Please sign up for that. And before we get out of here, I want to acknowledge a couple people that have been patiently watching. Hello, Brenda. I want to say thank you for checking us out. I see you got the Biden-Harris logo on your tickets. I think I know who you're voting for. And also, as always, Kimberly, I appreciate you checking out the show today. So that's it for me, guys. I appreciate everyone for being here today. Until the next Startup Junkie, tomorrow, all right? We're going to bring you something very special. Don't know exactly what the topic is going to be, but I guarantee you it's going to be relevant. And please, please share this live stream. Share this live stream. On that note, I'm out. See you later.